Hi, I'm Jim Del Vecchio. This video is entitled Get Rich Through Your Career. And I want to start off by saying get rich, really, because a lot of people are saying, I can't really get rich through my career. I don't get paid that much. And of course, you might get rich monetarily, but you also might get rich through the experience of doing something you love, doing something important, contributing to the overall welfare, or another internally felt emotion or value. And values rule. When I was in the intensive care unit when I was 23 years old, I was looking at possibly the end of my life. I had the impression I was just living for myself. I made a promise that I would serve if I got better. Now I think that the heart of service not only helped me to serve others, it served me as well. I was an atheist or an agnostic at the time, and I woke up, quote unquote, to another reality. I now think of competition now as not as trying to beat my opponent, but I think of my competition as my partner in serving the marketplace with what we do. It's a different attitude. It's about service. It's not about beating anyone. I believe that the attitude has helped me experience the kind of gifts that have been coming to me unbidden now for, I would say, a decade or more. And speaking of values, there's our work values. These are typical work values coming up here. Values are not right or wrong, these work values. They are unique to you. So look at the work values that follow and see if any of them match what you are seeking in a career. We have a number of values here. Achievement, working in a job that uses your abilities and gives you a feeling of accomplishment. Authority, job in which you use your position to enforce rules or regulations. Creativity and self-expression, a job in which you use your imagination to find new ways to do or say something. Helping others, a job in which you provide direct services to others. Independence, a job in which you decide for yourself what work to do and how to do it. Intellectual stimulation, a job which requires a considerable amount of thought and reasoning. Leadership, a job in which you direct, manage, or supervise the activities of others. Outside work, physical work. Prestige, a job where it gives you status and respect in the community. Salary, a job that pays above average. Travel. Variety, a job in which your duties change frequently. Work with your hands, work with machines or equipment. Work with numbers, work with people. Once you've taken a look at those, see if you can identify what are your best work values, the one that you really would like to have in a job. What was the result of looking at these values? Did you see any that you liked a lot, and which ones did you like best? Now your work interests. These are types of jobs and activities that satisfy and interest you, the kind that you could work at for hours and it doesn't seem like work. A man named John Holland categorized these into 6 basic types. Look at the following and see if you can determine your top 3 interests. The first group in John Holland's format is realistic. And realistic interests include practical, hands-on problem solving and solutions. These people enjoy working with plants, animals, or real-world materials like wood, tools, machinery. They may enjoy working outside. Often these people do not like occupations that mainly involve doing paperwork or working closely with others. Investigative interests, people with this interest like to work activities that have to do with ideas and thinking more than with physical activity. They like to search for facts and figure out problems mentally rather than to persuade or lead people. People with artistic interests like these work activities that deal with the artistic side of things like forms, designs, patterns, color. They like self-expression in their work. They prefer settings where work can be done without following a clear set of rules, typically. People with social interests like work activities that assist others and promote learning and personal development. They prefer to communicate more than to work with objects, machines, or data. They like to teach, give advice, to help, or otherwise be of service to people. People with enterprising interests like work activities having to do with starting up and carrying out projects, especially business ventures. They like persuading and leading people and making decisions. They like taking risks for profit. These people prefer action rather than thought. People with conventional interests like work activities that follow set procedures and routines. They prefer working with data and detail more than with ideas. They prefer work in which there are precise standards rather than work in which you have to judge things by yourself. These people like working where there are clear lines of authority. And then when you come up with your top 3, if you can, that is many times called a summary code. So if you were able to narrow it to your first choice, second choice, and third choice, that makes up your summary code. For example, SEC, that would be social, enterprising, conventional. ASE would be artistic, social, enterprising, or RIA might be realistic, investigative, artistic. And there's all these different combinations, of course, of those 6 interest areas. Once you get your summary code, you can plug them into any number of career information resources to gather information about occupations. If you go to the ONET, this is the Department of Labor has got this site. It's ONET Online. There's the website. You can browse occupations that match your code, and you can find a tremendous amount of information about the occupation. And still, however, the book that led me to my career many years ago, and it's still my favorite, is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Today, it's available on the internet, and there's the internet website, bls.gov/OOH. BLS stands for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And for example, it will tell you the median wage, it will tell you the job outlook, what the occupation requires in terms of skills and education, and much more. I highly recommend this resource if you are undecided about career choice. And speaking of money, if you like what you do and you're good at it, you probably would be rated in the top half of workers in the occupation, rated by management, of course. Then you should be in the top half of all wages. If you're top half of workers, then you should be in the top half of wages, I would think. You know, we would expect that. And if not, maybe you want to ask for a raise or seek work elsewhere. And there's a wage slide. In every occupation, there exists a slide of wages. In other words, most of the wages are congregated around the median wage. And then there's a range of wages that extend out far past the median wage. And this pattern resembles a slide. And there's my poor attempt at doing some artistic endeavor with the computer. But basically, this is what it looks like if we're going to do this, look at the statistics. On this scale on the left here is the number of people. So here's less people and more people. And these are the wages. And this is less wages here, and this is more wages here. So typically, each area, let's say we take cleaners. Cleaners, the minimum wage, let's say, is here. That's the wages where nothing goes, below that. So maybe I didn't know if I could draw that correctly, but there's a high number of people maybe working in cleaners at the minimum wage. This would be the median wage. Let's say the amount somewhere up here. The median is where half is above and half is below. And basically what this shows is most cleaners make low amounts of money. These are lower amounts of money here, minimum wage, and the median wage is not that much higher. And then, however, there are people, like there are lesser people that make quite a fair amount more than the minimum wage. There's lesser people that make pretty good amount more than a minimum wage. And then you got people that are way out here that are making quite a bit more than a minimum wage. So if you're in the top half of workers, you're probably, I imagine you're going to be on this, somewhere around along this side. So you're making pretty good money. I think from my statistics, if I remember correctly, typically out here the factor is about 3 times the median wage for many occupations. So if the median wage is around $10 an hour, let's say, then these people out here are making about $30 an hour. And that's pretty decent money, and it's money where you can save. It allows you to save. So what does it mean? It means simply that if you're one of the better workers, but you're not getting paid like it, maybe you want to explore how to get paid more. Maybe you'll have to change employers. A good example is one of the lowest paid occupations, the cleaner. And we went over that. However, for example, there are cleaners who work at General Motors, let's say, who are part of the union, part of the UAW, United Auto Workers, and maybe they're covered by that contract, or the employer decides to pay them as if they were covered by a union contract, and they're making far above the median wage. I use the acronym SPIESL, S-P-I-E-S-L, to stand for spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and livelihood. And it's a goal-setting exercise that I do. I try to keep myself in balance. So write down your goals in the areas above. For example, under livelihood, you might write, find a better paying job within 6 months. These are some peak experience exercises, and this is a great exercise to help you discover some of your inner genius. Try to identify, let's say, your 5 or your 7 greatest achievements in your life and write it down, what it took to accomplish what you did. Look at the skills it took to accomplish what you did. Look through all of your experiences and find the common denominators. And then use an anchor. Many times people will talk about an anchor. Once you get into that sense of where you're reliving that experience, then you might want to do something like what I was doing for an anchor. I was touching my thumb and forefinger together. And I remember doing this I was in a tennis match, and I was just sort of remembering my peak experiences, and I would touch it was a close match, and I would touch my thumb and forefinger to try to get me back into that space. Many times people call it the zone now, where you're in that zone where you're really, really clicking. And I won the match. And I've done this a few times like that. When your heart rate gets going, your brain activity gets going, you try to anchor it. And I found my career mostly by using the peak experience exercise. As a matter of fact, I had in my book, Manifesting Abundance, I talk about that. The big thing that led me was a basketball game that I played in, where I scored a lot of points, and I turned the game around, and the opposing team couldn't stop me. And I did anchoring on that, and I started thinking about what I liked about it and motivating people and using my ability that I had with people, and I just sort of kept doing that and some other peak experiences. And I went into the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and I just happened across a picture that showed a counselor working with a disabled person about work-related things, and it just clicked. I just felt like that's it. That's what I want to do, or something like it. I didn't do exactly that, but I did something very similar to it. So from the exercise, I learned that I enjoyed motivating, working with people, and I had a desire to help others. So it's no surprise that remember that Holland codes, my main code was the S, the social, and then I was also enterprising. Those are the 2 big ones. The business, I had a business undergraduate degree. I like business, and I liked helping people. I did the flower exercise and What Color's Your Parachute. It's an excellent book. It's like by far the best-selling book, career book. It's by Richard Nelson Bowles, and it's an excellent book. He did those peak experience exercises. I forgot what he called them, but and he had the, I don't know if it's in recent editions, but he used to have a flower exercise, like what are your skills, where do you want to apply these skills, where do you want to live, in what setting, what kind of employer. It's really very detailed. But I liked his concept also of being a good steward of the gifts that God gives you in terms of talent. And I feel that we are given these gifts, and there's something out there that we're meant to do, I think, most of us anyway. And I would like to say all of us, but I'm not so knowledgeable to know if it's 100%. But from over 25 years of being a career counselor, I would say that the vast majority of us have a particular skill or a place that we are meant to be. So armed with this information, I went to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and I just told you that. So then I went out and did some informational interviewing, and I did some volunteer work in a rehab hospital to see if I would like the occupation, and I did, and I went back to college and got a master's degree and did it. A structured interview. This is something that's helpful if you're thinking of career planning also. Do a structured interview with yourself. It's something I used to do with my clients. And it will help you to look at the big picture and see the winding road you took, including why you made certain decisions. I found that through the years of doing this, that most people, although you may be sitting there, maybe you're getting down on yourself thinking, oh, I've had a dumb life, I made a lot of mistakes. Well, I've found that most of the times as I follow these people through their careers and through their lives, that their decisions did make some sense. A lot of them made perfect sense for most of their life. You might make a mistake here and there, but for the most part, people, I could see why they made their decisions. So the way you do a structured interview, you just go back, typically you might start from high school or grade school, and you start listing and writing down what did you do. For example, when you were in school, what courses did you like? What courses didn't you like? Why did you like them? Why didn't you like them? And that's starting to get at your preferences. And for example, I'm starting here on the screen with work or military experience. How did you get the job? What were the dates? What were the title? What were the duties? What was required? What were the tasks? What were the skills that you had to use? The tools, the equipment? What other skills are showing up in that particular endeavor? And the reason for leaving. Why did you leave? And you just continue like that and go through school, training, military, work experience. Keep asking yourself, why did you do that, or why did you leave? Cover training, education, as well as work experience. And again, look for the common denominators. I highly recommend you talk with at least 3 people that are doing the occupation. When you get to where you've identified some occupations, go out and do some informational interviewing. Ask them things like, what kind of person does well in this job? What skills are important? Remember, you're not looking for a job right now, you just want information. So don't go out and just call them and say, I want to do an informational interview with you, and then get there and try to apply for a job or give them your resume, because many times you'll get a very negative reaction because they'll feel like you pulled the wool over their eyes. Basically, you're just there for getting information. So, so for example, the way this might work is I'll use myself. Did this exercise, these exercises, the peak experience exercises, the structured interview exercises, and I thought I might like to do something where I'm helping people, where I'm using my skill, because I felt like I had some skill with people to understand them. And I went out and started doing informational interviewing, like in a vocational rehab, and I did the volunteer work in a vocational rehab hospital. So I worked with quadriplegics and paraplegics. And I found that it was good. However, I didn't want to work with just that population. And I decided I did some informational interviewing with the Department of Labor. And that's the way that I finally ended up going through the Department of Labor. I also did informational interviewing with colleges, and I did work for college part-time. Volunteering is an excellent way to see if you would like to work in an occupation. So you can do both informational interviewing and volunteering. And again, many times you can just call up, find them in the phone book or on the internet. I don't use the phone book anymore. I use the internet for everything as far as finding phone numbers. And choose wisely. Make a good choice and get the job you love. You're on your way. And then comes saving and finally investing. So there's a stepwise progression, it seems to me. You get a career or a good paying job. You learn how to save money from that job. And then you learn how to invest it. And you're on your way. And I have a number of courses here. The Trading Secrets course is the one that, the last one with the stocks is the one that costs money, but it's going to, if you do it well, it's going to make you a lot of money in the stock market. And just let us know if you have such an interest. And there's my contact information, and I wish you well, and God bless.